Everyone, and thank you for joining us for the September Local Employment Dynamics, or LED webinar. Before I introduce today's speaker, let's go over a few housekeeping rules. As mentioned earlier, this webinar is being recorded. For your convenience, it will be uploaded to our Census Academy site with all supplemental materials relating to the webinar within 30 business days. We welcome your questions during the webinar, but please submit your questions using the Q&A panel, which is located at the bottom right corner of your WebEx screen. Once you've found the Q&A panel, make sure you choose All Panelists from the drop-down menu. This will ensure we see your question. As time allows, we will answer your questions directly through the Q&A panel, or we will share your question with the presenter to respond to during the Q&A portion of the webinar. Also, we ask that you do not include any personal or business identifiable information with your questions. We suggest keeping the chat panel open as we will provide key links and other resources throughout the webinar. Keep in mind, you won't be able to respond to the chat. That is for us to send out links and other resources related to the presentation. As you know, we are in a virtual environment and sometimes technical difficulties may occur. If you are having issues, try a different browser or consider logging out and coming back into the session. If you are having audio issues, try selecting the computer audio or calling into the webinars via phone. On behalf of the U.S. Census Bureau and the Local Employment Dynamics Partnership, in collaboration with the Council for Community and Economic Research and the Labor Market Information, it is my pleasure to welcome my friend and colleague, Adam Grundy, as he presents Made in America, a data-driven look at U.S. manufacturing using census data. In preparation for the Census Bureau's upcoming observation of Manufacturing Day on October 3rd, 2025, Adam explores the manufacturing sector using interactive census tools. Discover how this vital economic industry is shaping the nation and where manufacturing activity is happening across the country. Adam Grundy is a supervisory statistician in the Economic Management Division at the U.S. Census Bureau. Adam began his career at the Census Bureau in 2009 in the Manufacturing and Construction Division. He worked as a survey analyst for the Computer and Electronic Products North American Industry Statistics, or NAICS, and published a quarterly current industrial report on the same topic. Adam moved to the Economic Indicators Division to work as a survey analyst in the Manufacturers Shipments, Inventories, and Orders Survey, or M3. He continued to work within the Computers and Electronics Products NAICS while in M3 and helped with preparing various press releases for the economic indicator. Currently, Adam serves in the Data Users Outreach and Education branch. Adam has taken on many leadership roles, including developing an online calendar for the Economic Directorate and participating in key stakeholders meetings for developing the Census Business Builder data platform. Adam has written several America Counts articles and is dedicated to finding new ways to share economic data to the public. With that, I welcome Adam.
Thank you, Arlene, for the warm welcome, and I hope everyone's having a good afternoon wherever you may be. So this is today's agenda for the LED webinar that we have going on today. I'm going to be going through some key surveys, programs, and censuses that measure manufacturing activity. So talking about some of the ways we're structured in the Economic Directorate. I'm also going to go through some manufacturing data resources, like our Manufacturing Week is coming up on September 30th, all the way through Manufacturing Day, which is October 3rd. And I'll also provide us with some live demos of where you can find some of these key manufacturing data pieces on census.gov. And of course, we'll wrap it up with a brief Q&A to hear your guys' data user questions. So this is how we're structured in the Census Bureau's Economic Directorate. So as you know, the Census Bureau does many surveys, as you can imagine, not only just for the population census, which goes on every 10 years, but we also have a lot of other surveys that are taking place. At the top of our pyramid, we have a high frequency data. This would be things like the Business Trends and Outlook survey. Other things that go on that was stood up during the pandemic was the COVID-19 Data Hub, and that was one of the things we did to track business activity and also business expansion or potentially closures during the pandemic. We also have monthly and quarterly small sample surveys to provide timely data. So as Arlene mentioned, I worked in M3, which is the manufacturer's inventories, shipments, and orders survey. And that one, I took a look at, computers and electronic products as part of the main industry that I was in charge of. And then we also have quarterly surveys, like quarterly services survey and quarterly financial report. Things like that are all going on at the Census Bureau. In the middle of our pyramid is our annual surveys. These have larger sample sizes and provide the most up-to-date trend data available. I'll be giving you guys a teaser a little bit about a new survey that just started to release their data back in July called the Annual Integrated Economic Survey, or AIES. And then every 5 years, we conduct an economic census, as well as a census of governments. So those are the two main censuses that we do in the Economic Directorate. And those occur every 5 years, ending in the digit 2 and 7. And then, of course, we also have foundational administrative data from our business register. It allows us to supplement and produce additional economic products like county business patterns and non-employer statistics, which you'll hear about very soon. And these are some of the terminologies that I'll be using in today's presentation. So the first one is NAICS. That's the North American Industry Classification System. And then you see on the right-hand side of your screen is a NAICS hierarchy. So if we start at the sector level of information or two-digit level, you're getting to a pretty broad category. As you add a digit to a NAICS code, such as a subsector all the way to U.S. industry of a 6-digit NAICS code, you get to radio broadcasting stations, including advertising and AM radio stations. So as you add more digits to a NAICS code, you get more specific, but there may not be as much data as you maybe would find at the industry group level or industry level or 4 or 5-digit level. So one of those things to keep in mind. I'll also talk about the difference between establishments and companies and firms. An establishment is a single physical location of a business, whereas a company or firm are kind of used interchangeably. Where let's say we have a fictional company of Adam's manufacturing plant, and let's say the state of Texas, but it's a fictional company. And then, so let's say he has 3 manufacturing plants in the state of Texas. That would be one company or firm, and then 3 establishments. And then we also have employers versus non-employers. An employer has paid employees. A non-employer is all the sole proprietors that are out there, all the non-employers, or they don't have any paid employees, but we track their business activity through IRS records. So while most programs only cover employer businesses, the non-employers are mostly self-employed individuals. And of course, U.S. Code Title 13 and 26 protects our business privacy, all the business's privacy and confidentiality. So the first thing up is our county business patterns, about talking about some of these different annual programs and surveys. The county business patterns only covers establishments with paid employees in the United States, whereas non-employer statistics covers programs with, this program covers non-employer establishments with mostly self-employed persons. You can see the caveat to that at the bottom of your screen about that in that note. The annual business survey also has rich business owner data. So if you're looking for the number of, let's say, like the graphic shows on the left-hand side of breweries, a number of Black-owned breweries in the state of Minnesota, you could find that data from the annual business survey. If you're looking for the number of, let's say, Asian-owned flower shops in the state of Florida, the annual business survey would be your best bet for that too. So the first up is county business patterns. Like I mentioned before, this is a brand new graphic. You guys are going to be the first ones to see this. It's going to be unveiled on Manufacturing Week. But this one has already been fully approved, and manufacturing is still the 5th largest employer according to the 2023 county business patterns data. So the latest data available as of today's date is for calendar year 2023, and you can see 2023 is also on your screen here too for county business patterns. So the most recent data was released in June of 2025, and this includes statistics on the number of establishments, so again, single physical location of businesses, employment, annual payroll for nearly every 2 through 6-digit NAICS code. So it goes down to pretty granular levels. The data are published at the national, state, metro area, county, congressional district, which is the only annual program that goes down to the congressional district level, and zip code levels too. So even though it's an annual program, it goes down to very, very rich detail. And the county business patterns also covers our 5 U.S. territories, which you see outlined on your screen. Another new graphic that we came from the Census Bureau that's going to be unveiled during Manufacturing Week. So again, little teaser for you guys to visit the Manufacturing Week website, which we'll put in the chat in just a little bit. We have also average annual payroll per employee by industry. So how does manufacturing compare to other industries? And as we look at the basic breakdown of sectors that we can see on the left-hand side is information and finance and insurance. It's on the top half of those industries. So the average annual payroll per employee for all sectors of the economy is 68,342, and for manufacturing, it's 73,202 for manufacturing. So it ranks a little bit above the average annual payroll. Also, different things to keep in mind. All these different data visualizations are available at census.gov. The ones that I'm showing you right now are not quite up yet. So you're getting, like I said, a brief teaser, but those will be unveiled during Manufacturing Week. So next up is non-employer statistics. This one is publicly available. This non-employer statistics, the gig is up visualization, which takes a look at number of individual proprietorships in selected industries versus receipts for individual proprietorships in selected industries. So the difference there is the number just means the total number of non-employers, and the receipts means the revenue. It's another way of saying revenue for non-employer statistics. These are mostly self-employed persons in the United States. They have no paid employees. So these could be things like limousine drivers, taxi drivers. We also have a lot of couriers, messengers and couriers. We also see a lot of family-owned daycares, stuff like that in non-employers. And they also have receipts or revenue of at least $1,000, with construction being the only difference to the rule there. Construction has just a $1 plus threshold because we want to track as much of those non-employer construction people as much as we can. And then it's published on an annual basis. The latest data available is for calendar year 2023, and that data was last released in May of 2025. So you can expect the next data update around May of next year. A little bit more about non-employer statistics. It's published at the national, state, metropolitan, and micropolitan statistical areas, or MSAs, combined statistical areas, or CSAs, and county geographic levels. It does not cover the 5 U.S. territories at this time. But the data are shown by the revenue size of that firm, again, the company, and the legal form of organization, or LFO, the national and state levels. The annual business survey, like I mentioned before, covers all of our business owner data, published on an annual basis, and the 2024 annual business survey first look tables were released in February of 2025. So currently we have the calendar year, the reference year of 2023 available for the full data set. This includes statistics on the number of firms, so again, number of companies at the company level, employment, annual payroll, sales, shipments, receipts, and revenue for nearly every 2 through 4 digit NAICS code at the annual business survey. So it goes down to pretty rich detail as well. And these data are published at the national, state, county, and place levels. There's a couple caveats that you can see in there. National, state, and MSA are down to the 2 to 4 digit, whereas county and place level are down to all the way to the 6 digit NAICS. Does not cover the 5 U.S. territories, and it also does not cover non-employer business owners. So these are shown by the characteristics of the business owners, like I mentioned before. So if you're looking for the number of, let's say, veteran-owned restaurants in the state of Minnesota, that you would have that information from the annual business survey. And then the other side of that coin is the non-employer statistics by demographics, or NES/D. So this one covers non-employer businesses in the United States and allows us to get those demographics of those non-employers that I mentioned the annual business survey that wouldn't have. So it's basically the same people that bring you the ABS, or the annual business survey, but this one produces statistics on the number of these non-employer firms and the revenue that they bring in, which is a major driver of the economy. So in almost all sectors of the economy, including manufacturing, we also see that non-employers outweigh the number of employer businesses in almost every sector of the economy. So it's one of those things to keep in mind, that we always see a lot of non-employer growth year over year at the Census Bureau's data. And then for the economic census, at the end of our pyramid was our economic census. And this is very important because it shows the most comprehensive data available that we have. The 2022 economic census is currently available, and it's at census.gov/economic census. And this is a little bit more about it. It was conducted every 5 years, like I mentioned before, years ending in the digit 2 and 7. So we're currently in the 2022 economic census cycle, and the data releases were going on all the way from January 2024, so early last year, all the way through the spring of next year. March 2026 is when we're planning to wrap up our final releases for the economic census. And it covers 19 economic sectors, including manufacturing, of course, and 950 NAICS industries that span almost 20,000 geographic areas. So a couple different data elements in there, such as number of establishments, again, single physical location of businesses, the products that they produce. So we have a product release called the North American Product Classification System, or NAPS release, revenue, employment, payroll, and much, much more from the Census Bureau's economic census. So this talks about who actually gets the economic census form. Only businesses with paid employees, for one. So while there's approximately 38 million businesses in the United States, 8 million of those businesses are employer establishments, which means about 30 million of those businesses are non-employers. So that's important for us to track that activity, like I mentioned before. And only 4 million establishments receive the economic census to fill out as part of our sample size. So this one talks about measuring a changing economy. So we have a couple of different new topics in the economic census for 2022. The big one that I've highlighted here is remanufacturing. And what that means is they come up with a product and they make some adjustments to it, and they call that remanufacturing. We also have different things in there, such as telemedicine. So as you probably experienced during the pandemic prior yourself, is that you had a doctor's appointment or two or three or four, or maybe even for your kids, like I had, where the doctor visit was all virtual in front of a computer, and going through that category was important for us to track that activity, the business activity for telemedicine during the current economic census. And NAPS is the North American Product Classification System, like I mentioned before. And we also had different products such as cannabis, cryptocurrency, and even electric vehicles that were used for the first time in the economic census. And then we also had some industry expansion. New industry subsectors included support activities for crop production, support activities for animal production, and the 2022 focus for this agriculture area was on a couple of different things for some basic data items. And mostly what we're asking the businesses to report, just for your interest, is their primary business activity for one, receipts, employment, and payroll. So four main basic data elements. And then there's obviously some more industry specific questions we ask. So if they're a manufacturing plant or things like that, some more questions we would delve into in that survey. So this is the accelerated data release plan. You can see at the bottom right of your screen, May of 2025, the product classification system or the product statistics release was the last thing to be sent out for the economic census. So that tells you that we've gone pretty fast from January 2024 all the way through today's date, which is September 2025. And the last thing we're trying to wrap up is our miscellaneous statistics release, which is scheduled for, like I said, early spring, if not late winter, depending on, all the different data qualities that we look for the Census Bureau's publishing standards. And then planning for the future for the economic census. We are looking to standardize content, which means aligning between our annual and economic census collections. I talked about a lot of those annual programs in the beginning. We're also going to leverage external and alternative data, looking for other ways we can improve our data collection. If we can't get, let's say the data quality isn't up to our standards, what we can do to look for alternative data, whether they can provide us with just the revenue, and maybe not all the data elements, but as much as they can give us from these different businesses and companies in order for us to publish the data at the right publication standards. And also identify emerging topics. Like I mentioned before, we have the new category of telemedicine, staying in tune to all the different things that are going on in the economy that are driving some of the different numbers that we see that are put out from the Census Bureau. Accelerate our data production, streamlining those processes to make the data faster. So you can see that accelerated data release plan. We already were ahead of the game. If you ever tuned into earlier webinars regarding the economic census, you saw that we were pretty much moving the goalposts closer to you guys, as they say, because we're going as through our data quality standards at a much faster rate than we ever have before. So that just shows the improvements that we've been making. And then creative, interactive, and flexible data products I'll show you in just a moment. Some of our dynamic data tools and also some of our new infographics. So next, the main reason that brings us here today is our LED manufacturing data. So I'll go through a couple of different screenshots at the beginning, and then I'm going to go live in just a moment to my browser to show you how I did this. So this one is our job-to-job explorer, which if you've ever tuned into an LED webinar before, you've probably seen this many times. So this one takes a look at manufacturing activity among other sectors that are available for you in the job-to-job explorer. So the URL is right here, and I'm going to go live in just a moment, but I want to show you a couple different things you'll see when I go live. The first thing is the main display, which you see on the top left of your screen, where it says start here, where you do hires to or separations from, things like that. And then that'll bring you to eventually to a map where you can see the different business activity that's going on there. Once I do that, I'll also go through our different charts that we have available on the job-to-job explorer, such as this one is job-to-job flows from 5 states to manufacturing by year or quarter. And then finally, we'll go through different industries from 5 states to all the different industries to see what's going on for that. So with that being said, let me jump now to my browser. So this is census.gov that you can see right here, and I'm going to jump to job-to-job explorer, which I already have preloaded for you to save some time here. Okay. So first thing I see over here is the start here button. That tells you obviously a clear indication of where you should start. So we have hires too, which I'm going to keep. Just one thing that I can mention is if I drop down, we have more data elements available. So I'm going to keep this as hires too. District of Columbia is the default for right now, but we're going to change this to national states plus DC. And I'm going to change it to our focus today, which is manufacturing. You can see that NAICS codes are not there, but we have the actual description of the industry. So manufacturing is what I'm going to choose today. And then it says for which states, I'm going to click on that, and it's going to take me now to the map. Okay. A couple different things that I'm going to do on the map before I get started is I'm going to set my filters a little bit. So the origin state is selected for all states right now. I'm going to leave that at the same origin state. And now I'm going to change some of the filters at the bottom right down here. So I can see this is highlighted over here, which shows me that little hand button. So I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to go to not 2024 Q1, but I'm going to use 2023 Q1 and click on Set My Filter. Okay. I can see the origin NAICS sector is all. The destination NAICS sector is manufacturing. And a couple of different things that I'm going to put in here is I'm going to change the map a little bit here. So I see this is job-to-job flows to manufacturing. I'm going to click once on this top right linear scaling arrow for once here, and a second time here for quantile scaling. Okay, so I can see a couple of different things that we can see over here. So the origin state is one of the things that's selected right now, but now I'm going to click on a couple of different ones that I know are main drivers of the manufacturing activity right now. So I'm going to do select none, and I'm going to go to California. I'm going to go to Florida. Let's go to Illinois, Texas, just as an example for this. And let's try Pennsylvania too, and click Save Changes. Okay, so what this does is it allowed me to change some of the origin states that we have over here. And if I want to see those numbers for how many hires to, for this, all I have to do is hover on the map. It tells me right there on the bottom left of my screen, 21,750 hires in Pennsylvania. When you're looking at the legend over here, you can see the different scale over here for the different things. So the darker shade of green on this map means where most of the hires are coming to. So if you go to Texas, that's 44,808. So 44,808 hires to during this quarter of 2023 Q1. And then for California, just under that, 42,592 hires to for manufacturing. So the other thing that you saw on that chart was also the this one over here. bipartite. I hope I'm saying that right, Arlene. But this one shows you where all the business activity is coming from the different quarters that we have available here. So again, I needed to change my columns over here by selecting, well, let's just do a full year's worth of data here for 2023 and click Save Changes. So it looks a little bit cleaner for me here. So you can see for California, if I just highlight over that, you can see for 2023 Q1, there's 42,592. And then for 2023 Q4, it was 34,485. For Florida, again, that changes up a little bit. Illinois, you can see where those totals are coming from for 91,109. Pennsylvania, you can see again where those totals are coming from. So this allows data users to track some of the great job-to-job experience that people are getting as they go from manufacturing areas or potentially from state to state when they have manufacturing jobs that open up. And then Texas is the last one they have available for us. I'll also go through a couple of different examples from some of our other data tools in just a moment. And if you have other questions regarding some of these specific data tools, I can go through that during the Q&A session. So let me stop sharing for a second so I can go back to the slides and show you a couple of different things that I'm going to for the data tools. So the first thing up is our manufacturing data resources. So again, this showed you the LED job-to-job flows as one of the main data sources. We also have a big celebration, like I mentioned in the beginning, a manufacturing week celebration going on starting September 30th, so mark your calendars, and then September 29th through October 3rd. So September 29th through October 3rd, with the Friday being the culmination of that manufacturing week. So this is talks about what you would see on that page. So again, we have the census.gov/MFG day is our main vanity URL that takes you to the manufacturing week page. And a couple of different things you'll see on there. You'll see a data visualizations showcasing some of the new data displays, much like the ones I showed you in the middle of the presentation about manufacturing being the 5th largest employer. And you'll see that page periodically update with new data visualizations during that week. We've already done the first refresh of that website. So let me go there and now I'll show you exactly what's changed so I can bring that to your attention. And I go to the Census Bureau and click on census.gov/MFG day. It takes me to the manufacturing day page. From there, you can see some of the different things. We now are celebrating the 14th anniversary is new, since this has gone on since 2011. Which was launched by the Manufacturing Institute. You see our great sponsors that are available here. Data Spotlight. One of the things that I mentioned before was the annual integrated economic survey. It's our newest survey. It combines 7 of our annual surveys into one big survey. So you can learn more about that by looking at our tip sheet and also the main program area page for the survey. We also have today's webinar, of course, in the carousel, and the recording from today's webinar will also be available in this carousel once it's completed and ready for your viewing pleasure. We also have different things in here, such as data visualizations from our manufacturing library. You can see manufacturing visualizations in here as well, and also how you can stay in touch with us. So I mentioned September 29th through October 3rd is our main manufacturing week. And you can use the hashtags if you're on social media of MFG Day 25 and also hashtag MFG Day in your social media posts and follow the Census Bureau on social media for all these different great updates. You can see some of the platforms that we're on here too. Okay. Other things that we have available for you guys for manufacturing data resources is our new census economic data page. So the main mission that we're trying to get out right now is that we do much more than just the population statistics. We measure the economy. That's the main thing that we're doing for our headline for right now. And we have a couple of different things in that page for economic data. One of the things I'll show you next is that we have new and featured econ produced visuals and products. So we're always looking for the newest thing to showcase with our data users. We also teach people too. We also have data gems, which are small little data snippets about how you can access some of our data tools and access some of our data visualizations as well. Webinars, much like the one going on right now today. Thank you for being here. And also data tools through demos and learning more how to use some of our great data tools that are available on census.gov. Other things I have available are state economic snapshots. So I'm going to go live to this page here in just a moment. And this one shows you all the different ways we can look through the economic census data by looking at these data snapshots. So let me do that now. Okay, so this is the manufacturing week page once again. So I'm going to go to the state economic snapshots, which is one of my browsers here. And there we go, state economic snapshots. So once I click on that URL that I showed in the slides, and the slides will be available after the fact once this webinar is posted. But you can see this one starts for the default of Alabama. Let's go to where manufacturing activity was mostly taking place, when we saw in the LED tool. Let's go to Texas real quick. So if I click on that link, it gives me a zoomed in view of what's going on in that state at that level. So you can see the top 5 sectors for the number of establishments in Texas is retail trade, professional, scientific, and technical services, healthcare and social assistance, accommodation and food services, and construction. So again, people are wondering, where's manufacturing? But that's by the number of establishments, not by revenue sources. Okay, so the revenue far drives almost all these sectors, I believe, when you look at the state of Texas, because this is just by the number of single physical locations of businesses. So that makes more sense, right? Retail trade would have a lot of businesses throughout the state for all different types of retail. Same thing with healthcare and social assistance. We see tons of those in a state as big as Texas, things like that. And then you see the revenue, transportation and warehousing. The biggest percent change was 39.1% for that one in Texas, from 2017 economic census all the way to 2022. And as you scroll down, there's a whole lot more. It's employment for accommodations. We also have healthcare and social assistance and things like that. And we choose different sectors as we go through different ones of these state snapshots as well, to let you look at all the different things at a glance, like the name implies. It's just a snapshot of what's going on in the economy. Other things we have available for you is a new economic census data visualization. So this one, when I go live, is an interactive data visualization, which allows us to look at statistics for revenue, the number of employees, first quarter payroll, annual payroll, through number of establishments. So again, the URL is available here, and I believe my colleagues have put this in the chat as well. So once I go live, I will show you that. Okay, so the way this data visualization works is it allows you to select a state, first of all. We also have different things for revenue for the selected statistic, which is the default, which I'll start with first. Let's change our NAICS industry. The way we can do that is either using the filter button, which comes up when you pop up here, which shows all values, or unselecting all. And now I'm going to go to manufacturing and click apply. Let me go to revenue, all data. And if I click apply, you can see now, and now it did populate. So we also have the revenue. We can see if, as you hover over each of these states, we have different things for revenue for the state of Texas. And these are in thousands of dollars. So while it says 808,005, 165, that is in, let's say, thousands, millions. So that's actually in billions of dollars. So $808.0 billion in revenue for the state of Texas. If you look at California, that'd be 656 billion, roughly. 656.1 billion in total revenue for that manufacturing sector. We also you can go to drill down to other different industry groups. So if I go to industry group here and select that, and now select my filter button. Oops. And now unselect all. And if I go to here and scroll down to our manufacturing area, let's say we go to, let's say, tobacco, beverage, and food, and click apply, you can see where some of this activity is going on. Some of the grayed out ones means there's not enough data available at some of these state levels. But again, if you go down to some of these industry group levels, you can see where all that business activity is taking place. So as you hover over a state, you can go to the different things for food manufacturing, beverage manufacturing, and tobacco. But of course, we can also view county level data. So if I could select a state, such as the state of California in this case, and click on view county level data, it will repopulate on the map. And you can see that small little sliver there has revenue available at these county levels. If it's not showing up for you, I can select all and click apply. You can see much more data is available at that level. Let's go back to the 2-digit sector for this revenue source and unselect all and go just to manufacturing for the state of California. Just to show you examples. So basically the size of the circle means where the majority of that activity is taking place. And then we also can do it by different statistics. So if I'm not interested in revenue for manufacturing, let's say I want to see how number of employees. I can select that, and it quickly repopulates on the map where some of these employees are located for manufacturing. For let's say San Bernardino, San Bernardino, California, and also we have other ones such as this one is for San Mateo County, California. Which you can always hover over all these types of things. And if you ever just want to reset the map, you can click on it one more time, and it can just go back to those different displays that we have over here. So that's our economic census geographic area statistics data visualization. If you ever just want to go back to the main map, you can just click on View National Map, and you can see where some of that activity is going on by number of employees, or by annual payroll, course first quarter payroll, or number of establishments. And again, going back to revenue, that's what that looks like for manufacturing. Okay. Other ways you can access our great data at the Census Bureau. One of them is quick facts, just like the name implies. Quick facts just give you a quick version of all the different data available for different surveys and programs on a display that you can see on the top left of those images that are available here. We also have different data available at the My Tribal area, congressional district level. We also have My Congressional District, which is available for data for county business patterns, data that I mentioned before, the Economic Directorate. And also we have different data from the LED. On the Map for Emergency Management tracks all our disasters in real time and the business impact on both the businesses and the population as those different things come up for us. We also have our Census API, which is available for us, and data.census.gov, which is our main data dissemination platform. So with that, I want to make sure we have plenty of time for questions. So I'm going to pause there and see what questions have come in through the Q&A. And I thank everyone for your time.
Thank you, Adam. Before we get to the questions, as a reminder, the presentation will be accessible on the Census Academy website at census.gov/academy under the webinar tab within 30 days. You'll also be able to find it on the Census Manufacturing Week webpage at www.census.gov/mfgday. The links have been added to the chat. And again, please type all of your questions in the Q&A and keep your questions pertaining to the presentation. The chat has been disabled to our attendees. So let's look at the first question. All right, so what qualifies as an employee for this kind of data, part-time or contract basis?
So if I'm understanding their question correctly, they're wanting for like some of our economic data, the basically for what classifies as somebody being classified as an employee. Is that quite right? Or
I
versus the
think
distinction being
also
part-time?
the gig, maybe when you talk about the
Okay.
gig.
Yeah. So with non-employer statistics, they are mostly self-employed persons. So basically, they could be working multiple jobs with that gig economy that I talked about before. So with the gig economy, let's say they're working as a courier for, let's say, a fictional, messenger place called Adam's Couriers or something like that. And what they do is that we track their revenue through the IRS records because they have to fill out a 1099 tax form to showcase their business activity through, even if they're employed by somebody else. Uh, Basically, they're working as independent contractor at that point as being a non-employer. So if they work through a different courier service, they basically get paid as through their own business activity type of thing. So with the annual programs, it's a little bit different for anything outside of non-employer statistics. So that would be people that have paid employees. They're working directly for that company. get the health insurance benefits and everything like that through them. But that does not prevent somebody from, let's say, being a part of that gig economy too. But we're not double counting per se. They would be working on a whole different entity at that point too. But that's a great question.
Next question, how should we think about the job numbers in the non-employer statistics versus the job numbers in the establishment and household surveys? Will those later two surveys capture the data captured in the non-employer statistics?
Yes. Okay. So with jobs data, if I'm understanding that correctly, I think that would be, I don't know if they're talking about our partner agency of BLS or Bureau of Labor Statistics, but if you're looking for just a number of manufacturing jobs as our example for today, we'd recommend data from the economic census, county business patterns, and even the annual business survey to track some of the business activity through those things. So basically, as you look through the data through those different data tools that I've showed you today. If you have any other questions, my email is directly on this slide here. I'd be happy to either do another walkthrough for you. I've done several data user phone calls with people to help them understand the data. So if I'm understanding your data question correctly, or not, feel free to send me an email, and we can sort through it to make sure we get the right data that you're looking for and the explanation that you need for this.
Okay, the next question is, can you explain what is meant by cannot meet publication standards?
Sure. Okay, so we had a couple of different things that we saw on the interactive chart that said not able to meet publication standards or not able to be displayed. So let's come up with an example here for, let's say, if I live in Montgomery County, Maryland, which is where I'm originally from, and let's say I know that there's 3 grocery stores and the whole state of Montgomery County, Maryland is a fictional example. Okay. Uh, we may not be able to publish the total number of establishments at that level for grocery stores because there's so few businesses available at that level of geography. So basically, we have to protect the individual businesses' reporting patterns and their individual numbers, because it'd be easy to if there's, like, let's say, one big store out of those 3 that's driving the economy for the whole numbers. We have to suppress that detail in order to protect the individual businesses. Doing a lot of talking today, as you can imagine. But yeah, we have to protect the individual businesses by doing that type of suppression. So I know it's not a friend for our data users, but it also helps us with our response rates for these businesses to let them know that we are going to protect the data that they supply to the government.
All right, next question is, what data is available to measure the size of digital economy?
Okay. So the digital economy would be our e-commerce data or e-stats, and that data is available on census.gov. Um, Again, if you have trouble locating it, or if our search bar has gotten better over the years at census.gov. If you type in the word e-commerce or e-stats, you should be able to find it fairly quickly. But again, if you have any trouble locating that, send me an email and I can point you to the exact URL so you can bookmark it for your data needs.
Okay, and regarding the gig economy, can
Mm-hmm.
I access data that estimates how many workers are 1099 Inc. workers as opposed to W-2 payroll employees?
I don't think there's a distinction between those. I just know that the 1099 is the main IRS tax form that all non-employers have to fill out, and that's what we pull from that database, our business register, in order to repackage the data for the non-employer statistics. And same thing with non-employer statistics by demographics. It's the same way we get some of the demographic data about these non-employers. It's through that. So I'm not familiar with the W-2, but that would make sense for maybe some NAICS categories, but I'd have to dive into that data a little bit more in order to fully grasp that. I'd recommend also going to the methodology pages for each of those URLs we put in there for non-employer statistics and also non-employer statistics by demographics, and they would clearly outline where that data is coming from.
Okay, there seems to have been a large increase in the number of food manufacturing establishments. Is there more granular data available to better understand the drivers of this increase?
Sure. So one of the things I talked about in the beginning of the presentation was our economic indicators. So things such as the M3, they have categories for both durable goods and non-durable goods. Um, and then I would recommend looking at that economic indicator dashboard, which is called our briefing room. And that one tracks all the different business activity on a month-to-month or even quarterly basis. And that would give you the most quickest and most direct snapshot of what's going on in the economy for things such as food or manufacturing or things like that. That would be my recommendation for that.
All right. Is the API free to use? Does the API access all data?
Yes, so the Census API is free for anybody who wants to use it. That's a great thing about the Census Bureau. You don't have to pay anyone to access all these great data tools and um, data points that are available from the Census Bureau. So the Census API, if you look at census.gov and you go to the search bar for API, there's several different tutorials out there from both data gems and also data experts like myself that can help you walk through getting the right data you're looking for setting it up on your own website, things like that, as long as you source the Census Bureau in your numbers.
I also added the link to the chat.
Thank you.
A timely question. What is the response rates for annual manufacturing surveys?
I do not know that off the top of my head, but I would recommend looking at our last manufacturing annual survey, which is called the Annual Survey of Manufacturers, that is now absorbed into the Annual Integrated Economic Survey, or AIES, that I talked about before. So it'd be tough for me to pull the Annual Survey of Manufacturers response rate because it's been maybe defunct for about 2 years now, roughly, getting ready for the AIES, or Annual Integrated Economic Survey. But again, if you want to send me an email, I'd be happy to get that exact response rate for you for the last couple of years, if you're interested in that. If it's publicly available information, I have to double check.
Okay, next question says, thank you for the information. How do local economic stakeholders at the county level, let's say, keep track of this data in real time or close to real time? If that is not possible, how much time lag is there?
Okay, so with our annual surveys, there's about a year lag, obviously. So the 2023 county business patterns is currently out. The most recent county business patterns data is coming out in May of 2026. So that would mean that it's going to be about 2 years behind for that. But then again, we have our economic indicators, which are much more up to date with our that give the basic pulse of what's going on in the economy. So I'd recommend staying in tune to the briefing room for one, and also subscribe to some of the different things you can see on census.gov from our newsroom to let you know when these new data are available. There's all different things you can do that probably even alerted you to this webinar today with the Gov Delivery that we call Gov Delivery subscribers that subscribe to anything from the Census Bureau. We try to get as much information out there to let people know when new data is available.
All right. To give a better context, a small sole proprietorship business designs a product, prototype it, and then contracts out of the manufacturing work to a specialized small scale manufacturing firm. I,
Mm-hmm.
I think that was a comment.
Okay. Sure. I think I follow their reasoning there. Yes. Yeah. So basically, that would be some of the remanufacturing that I talked about before. So they come up with a basic product. Maybe they put some type of different, let's say a microchip or something like that into it, and then they repackage it in a way that would classify under the remanufacturing, and maybe they send it off to a bigger plant within the United States.
Alrighty, and then does the U.S. Census utilize an IRS 1099 reporting data as part of non-employer data collection?
Yes, that is the main source, the main 1099 tax form that we use for non-employer statistics and also non-employer statistics by demographics.
The next question is, would the business be considered an employer?
If they're filling out the 1099 tax form, most likely not, because that is what we do for the IRS records for non-employers. Again, if they're part of the gig economy, they might be working a second job, and that second job, maybe that's their main source of income, and that would be considered a paid employee at that point too. So they would be tracked in the county business patterns, annual business survey, economic census, things like that. So that would be the distinction between those two.
All right, and there was a comment. Thank you. It brings future questions to be answered by different methods.
Sure thing. Yeah, I'd be happy to address any other questions you had.
All right, next question is the county level data in the interactive tool available for download?
Yes, it is. So there's deep links within that data tool that take you to data.census.gov, which is our data dissemination platform. Again, if you have any trouble with that, we have different data gems that are available out there. If I'm not personally available at that time when you call, please make sure you reach out to me either via email or we have many different capable subject matter experts at the Census Bureau that can help you walk you through getting the right data that you're looking for.
Another question is just out of curiosity, how are the data mentioned dealing with seasonality?
Sure, that's a great question. So we also have seasonally adjusted numbers and non-seasonally adjusted numbers that you can toggle on and off in our briefing room at the Census Bureau's economic indicators page. So what you can take a look at is there's seasonally adjusted numbers that are available. You can check that box, or you can uncheck that box for non-seasonally adjusted. And you can get both values depending on what type of statistic you want to look for.
Okay, looks like you answered somebody's question. Next question is tariffs. Are there any special surveys that provide further insights into how this impact manufacturing businesses?
I would recommend for tariffs to look at our economic indicators for any general guidance from the international trade statistics. Um, as far as relates to manufacturing, I think it's still too early to tell. Within the numbers that we provided now, there are different agencies such as the Bureau of Economic Analysis, which does do forecastings. At the Census Bureau, we do not do forecasting. So it's really too early to say in the numbers the impact that's happening for manufacturing on that particular topic.
Okay, and we had a comment that said, thank you, excellent overview. And the final question, how do you
Sure.
assess the level of accuracy of the data?
I've been working at the Census Bureau for 16 plus years, and this is the most consistently and hardworking group of people that I've ever worked with in my whole career. I can say that if the data is public and it's published, you can trust it. The businesses feel comfortable reporting back to us because of our data quality standards. We're not gonna basically showcase anything that wouldn't be um, wouldn't want to bring any individual attention out of a business in a negative light, or even protect their confidentiality at that point too. So I could say if the data is published, you can trust that the data quality is really high.
All right, and we had another comment that said, excellent webinar, thanks.
Thank you. Thank
So
you.
I told you our listeners are very smart and we had some wonderful questions there.
Absolutely, I
So
agree.
thank you everyone for that. Another thank you, very informative. All right, so thank you everyone for joining us this afternoon, and thank you to Adam uh, for his excellent presentation. Adam, would you like to make any closing remarks?
Yes, so there's just one final plug for manufacturing day/week, September 29th through October 3rd. Go to census.gov/MFG day for all the details and stay in tune for all the different things that are going to be going on for that week.
All right, well, this concludes the September LED webinar. Join us next month on October 15th at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time when Lawrence Warren, David Wasser, and Kaylin Wilkie Rogers present Unemployment Insurance Employment Outcomes, UIEO, the composition and reemployment dynamics of UI claimants. Upon exiting this webinar, you will receive a pop-up to an evaluation. We would appreciate that you take the time to answer the questions so we may better serve you with future webinars. On behalf of the U.S. Census Bureau and the LED Partnership, thank you for joining us today and enjoy the rest of your afternoon.